to all participants who joined from the Netherlands, and also good afternoon for those of you who joined from Indonesia. Welcome to the Week for Indonesia, the Netherlands Education and Research, Winner 2020. Winner provides a platform of collaboration in education and research to share knowledge and experiences, to inspire each other, and to set a common goal agenda for working towards achieving the 17 Sustainable Development Goals together. Today is the second day of Winner, and I hope all of you can join until the end of the event, which is tomorrow. On behalf of EDN Livable Cities, the organizer of these sessions, I would like to express my gratitude to the winner organizing partners, LIPI, Indonesian Academy of Young Scientists, ALMI, Dutch Research Council, the Royal Netherlands Academy of Art and Science, Nuffic NESO Indonesia, and the Netherlands Embassy in Jakarta. Once again, welcome to the session, a sustainable water design strategy for Semarang. The session will last for more or less 1 hour, so please stay tuned until the end of the session. My name is Julia, and I will be your moderator for these sessions. And joining with me, Reza Arlianda, who will become the co-moderator. Both of us are from the EDN Livable Cities. For your information, this session is organized by EDN Livable Cities and supported by MLA Plus, University of Diponegoro Semarang, and Deltares. Before starting the event, I would like to remind all the participants that this webinar is recorded for documentation purposes. Please do mute your microphone during presentations, and please raise your questions by writing them down on the chat box. Here is the more or less rundown for these sessions. So after this, I will give a bit of introduction of the context of Semarang and the project of water as leverage for resilient cities in Asia. And after that, each keynote speaker will have 5 minutes to present their materials, and followed by 20 minutes question and answer session. This session will be closed by 5 minutes closing and conclusion remarks by the moderator, which is myself. Furthermore, I would like to ask to all of you to fill in the polling questions through the link provided in the chat box. The result will be presented by the end of the session. So now I will introduce you to the context of Semarang and the project of water as leverage for resilient cities itself. So Semarang is a delta city located in the north coast of Java Island and is the capital city of Central Java Province. As one of the big cities in Indonesia, Semarang is inhabited by more than 1.7 million people in 2017. The city even forms a metropolitan area by agglomeration with surrounding cities, namely Kedung Sepur. The city has an important position in economic development in the province. Despite its economic prosperity, unfortunately, the city is facing environmental challenges due to the climate change phenomenon, such as drought, landslides, and floods, as you can see in the picture on the right side. In 2018 until 2019, the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, or RVO, had an initiative called Water as Leverage for Resilient Cities in Asia. The aim is to assist selected cities to develop strategies to face hydro-methodological issues due to climate change and to shift the paradigm of seeing water as just a disaster, but also as an opportunity. The initiative was implemented in 3 pilot cities, which were Chennai, Khulna, and Semarang. Semarang was assisted by 2 consortiums, Cascading Semarang and One Resilient Semarang. Both consortiums consist of multidisciplinary experts from Indonesia and the Netherlands. Such a good collaboration between the 2 countries. By the end of the initiative, both teams produced 5 project proposals toward an integrated water strategy. These 5 proposed projects are feeding the industry, rechanneling the city, spongy mountain terrace, resilient kampong, integrated protective coastal zone, and water neutral industry. And joining with us today, there are 4 keynote speakers who are part of the Cascading Semarang Consortium. Each keynote speaker will share one aspect that is more important in developing a sustainable water design strategy. I will read a short profile of each keynote speakers. The first keynote speaker is Mrs. Piwi Chio from Idean Livable Cities. Ibu Wiwi Chio is a landscape architect currently working for the urban planning department of the Rotterdam municipality. Her expertise is in landscape and urban design with a passion for integrated water and landscape planning. She has worked on projects throughout Southeast Asia, United Kingdom, and Australia. Since 1999, she worked for several municipalities in Netherlands, responsible for all stages of landscape design, for example, landscape strategy, urban transformation plan, contributed to the integrated urban water strategies, and detailed innovative water plans with an emphasis of sustainability. Since 2013, she is actively involved as a task force drivers in idea and livable cities, and with integrated water and landscape planning as her specialization. And our second keynote speaker is Olaf Gerson from MLA Plus. Olaf Gerson is an associate director of MLA Plus, a well-known internationally operating Dutch master planning, landscape, and architecture firm with offices in the Netherlands, United Kingdom, Germany, Russia, and China. Olaf is an experienced architect and urbanist with extensive international experience and an interest in realizing complex projects in different cultures and countries. He is a strong team player and connector with a knack for organization and a keen eye for people and detail. In Cascading Semarang Consortium, he holds a role as a team player. And our third keynote speaker is Monica Altamirano from Deltares. She is a public-private partnership specialist at Deltares and advisor to the Netherlands International Water Affairs team, committed to the making water security financial viable for developing countries in time of climate change. With 16 years of experience, she has advised governments on how to catalyze private sector investment in water infrastructure and climate adaptation in Asia, Latin America, Europe, and Africa. She is also the member of World Economic Forum Cities, Infrastructure and Urban Service Community, the UNECE team for specialists in public-private partnerships, and the OECD Roundtable of Financing Water. She is currently leading the Peru Following Water Journey, which strives for systemic change toward the sustainable use of water. Last but not least, we have the fourth keynote speaker, which is Mrs. Iwandari Handayani from Diponegoro University, Undip, Semarang. Iwandari Handayani obtained her doctoral degree from Stuttgart University, Germany. She is currently a senior lecturer of Department Architecture, Diponegoro University, Semarang. Her expertise is in the field of urban-rural linkage and regional planning. She recently assisted Semarang city government to develop the Semarang Resilience Strategy and within the Cascading Semarang Consortium, which she led the governance cluster. And without the further ado, I will give the floor to the first keynote speaker, Mrs. Wiwi Ichio, who will present the social and community aspect toward a sustainable water design strategy for Semarang. Please, Wiwi Ichio, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you so much, Julia, and thank you to the winner organizing team for giving me the opportunity to present the lessons learned from the Cascading Semarang team from the, sorry, my apologies. So good afternoon to those in Indonesia and good morning for those joining from the Netherlands. Within the so-called social team that we had within the Cascading Semarang team, we were accompanied by Diponegoro University and the Sultan Agung Islamic University as well, or Unisula. And in this presentation, I will guide you in 5 minutes through a cross-section of some of the characteristic areas in Semarang. As Julia explained, Semarang started as a coastal city. As it is today, the city faces multiple challenges but also provided our team with positive insights from the social and community perspective. Here is an impression of Kampung Bahari, a fisherman village that previously had flooding problems from the sea. Recently, it has been revitalized by the city of Semarang, and we see here how vibrant the area is and the importance of integrating of physical solutions, affordable housing, opportunities, as well as providing public services to enhance the quality of life of fishermen community. It is also an attractive area due to the specific characteristics. Next, we go from the coast to the upstream hilly hinterland, formerly a predominantly green area, as you see on the picture on the right at the bottom. But it is now getting more and more urbanized due to deforestation and surface sealing, erosion and landslide risks are increasing, as well as the reduction of water infiltration into the aquifer layers. Yet we see inspiring examples of innovative agriculture systems, such as at
Hah?
Kampung Aquaponic.
Bocor.
Excuse me, Julia, where aquaponic systems became a popular phenomenon. This is due to the enthusiastic efforts of some of the residents to motivate others. We see also that Semarang made progressive moves to improve the quality of life of its residents. And as a result of the construction of the Eastern Flood Canal, resettlement had to take place. The residents could move into social housing, and the housing area were complemented with water retention basins to keep the area flood free. On a smaller scale, we see that the residents themselves start to utilize the gardens surrounding the apartments and making urban farming practices there. So, an integrated approach is imperative in the search for potential solutions of the complex problems we encounter. In the water as leverage, water issues is the driving engine for the systemic improvement of social, urban, and financial challenges to deliver a more resilient future for Semarang. Therefore, our approach is also structured around four tracks as presented in the figure below. The four tracks are urban challenges, water challenges, social challenges, and bankability. These four tracks are intertwined with the two goals of this project: to come up with integrated bankable projects based on research by design methods. Olaf, as a team leader, will elaborate on this in the next presentation. As part of the Cascading Semarang strategy, IDN Livable Cities were involved in the development of the so-called NL Inclusive Infra Manual based on the social impact assessment tool. More partners were involved in the development of the tool, among others with the Vane and Boss engineering consultant. This was a very insightful process as the team took the dynamic area around the Peterongan market. This is a lively, recently renovated traditional market near one of the old channels within the city. And the valuable lesson learned here is to include vulnerable groups directly affected by proposed interventions in the process of the design of their environment. So with this, I would like to end my presentation, and I look forward to your reactions, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Ibu Wiwi, and apologize for technical issues from my side. I hope it doesn't disrupt you. So I will give the floor to the second keynote speaker, Mr. Olaf Kerson from MLA Plus, who will present the spatial aspect towards sustainable water design strategy. Please, Olaf, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Julia. I hope everybody can see our screen. Let me put it on presentation. Okay, lessons learned from water as leverage. I would do point out that our consortium, of course, consists of several people or several organizations, both from Dutch and Indonesian side, and especially also thanks to the people that sort of sat in between. We luckily had a few in our team, which turned out to be very important to really bridge and make that connection to the different cultures. It was actually quite easy for us, well, quite clear for us to come up with a main approach. Already inspired on the sabers you saw there in the last picture, it was quite clear for us that going from upstream to downstream, we want to work with the water as a feature, rather than fighting the water, the quick water release as it was, as we found it. We would go to, we got to a paradigm shift into not a drop of water gets lost. Well, that's quite easy to draw or to come up with, as you can see in the section. But the question, of course, how do you implement that? And then what we found, not only in nature, but also in the culture and the approach towards water, that there was a really robust reality. The urban nature dichotomy was very strong, meaning upstream there's a sea of green with little blotches of urban, and it's really nature versus urban, really fighting. And downstream was actually the reverse. There was a big hard surface, quite densely urbanized, with very sparsely found green spots in there. So what we really needed to find was a way to, rather than fighting nature or fighting urbanism, is to start integrating them, and sort of to go with the flow, find a little bit what is happening, and then by doing so, looking at the water problems and creating from that solutions or interventions that not only mitigated the problems caused by water, but actually turned them into opportunities. In upstream, you could think about mitigating or solidifying landslide risk areas, redirecting the water flows, and thus also creating better space or more space for urbanism. If we look downstream, we actually found the reverse. There's a vast amount of hard surface. It's highly dense, urban environment, but very, very little proper, accessible, or good quality public spaces. So therefore, here it was much more on an acupunctural way, finding ways how to increase the network, creating a finer network of soft space, and make it in that way a little bit more robust. As you can see here, this is that same Petorangan area, and the top picture there shows the condition currently. It is like an open sewer, and it could actually become an open park. We didn't only look at just acupunctural interventions. It was also really creating a more robust overall structure. So we also still looked at big infrastructural measures we could take. So this was an idea where we would collect the water through toll roads, and then collect that, convey the water into a collecting basin, and then with that basin feeding the industry, which has a really high water demand, which they're currently sucking out of the ground. So rather changing that into a better way. We even imagined here we could go into a cleaning facility, which then would, through deep infiltration, replenish the underground aquifers. So all this was really based on the spatial ideas, but I think the biggest lessons, or one of the biggest lessons learned there, and that's also a little bit what Vivi already told in the previous presentation, is you have to work with people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Olaf. I think that is a quite important and interesting presentation from your side. And I think the design would be like such an inspire for everyone here, the participants, especially who are had a background in design as well, because there are so many things, I believe. And thank you for squeezing all the lesson run into the 5 minutes. So now I will give the floor to the third keynote speaker. Mrs. Monica Altamirano will present the economical aspect towards sustainable water design strategy. Please, Monica, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you see my presentation?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. 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 Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I cannot see Julia. So could you? What?
What's wrong, Monica? We can see the presentation.
I cannot see the presentation myself, so I don't see where we are. But okay, it is my pleasure to present to you further building on the findings that Olaf presented us, how we develop implementation strategy. So what we work with, it was, I hope you are seeing the slide that says water and economic growth. It's, for some reason, I can't see it myself.
No, you have to push one more.
I think you have to push one more button because we are still looking at the welcome slide.
Okay. So I'm sorry, Julia, maybe we can go to the other speaker, because I cannot have control. I don't see the, or if you can present it, that's also possible.
Okay, let me skip to you first, or maybe the host, could you please help me to share Monica's presentations from your screen?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. We just tried it and it was working, but okay, just a bit zoom out.
Yeah, can you see the presentation already?
Yeah, I see it actually too big, but I hope the rest can see it perfectly. So we can go to the next slide. So yeah, what we work all the way from the beginning, because that was an important objective of Water as Leverage, was also how do we come to a paradigm shifting investment program, right? So how do we originate investment projects that do change the dynamics that Olaf and we were also presenting? And so we work with all the different disciplines to see how to implement these 5 urban development typologies in a way that would bring a very good win-win dynamics between water, climate resilience, and economic growth. And so we combine, a big part of our work also was to develop what should be the process to build an enabling environment, but at the same time develop fit for purpose implementation arrangements for those urban typologies, in a way that we would reduce the transaction costs that different parties, public and private, have to pay in the process of upscaling and replicating, and slowly building capacity in the public and the private sector to implement these innovations in a successful way. Overall, the intention was not just to achieve resilience, but also increase the competitiveness of the Semarang local private players, including SME. So as you see here, we wanted to increase a number of green jobs, PPP and performance-based contracts, and also just in general have a better public-private synergetic engagement. Now, to achieve all this, though, we can go to the next slide. Yeah, to achieve, I mean, for any of our ideas to access funding and financing, either public or private, we needed to work together to develop the full investment or business case. And it was really great. We managed to work even before COVID times with the teams and all our partners in Indonesia and the Netherlands to align. For instance, the concept of building with people, it is also crucial to reduce risk in implementation that are key for the commercial business case. So it's not just only an economic or a strategic reason to work with people and involve them in the planning process, but it really makes sense in financial and commercial terms. So if we go on, you will see how we also, how was the logic to take into account what type of project we're talking about to then design a fit for purpose implementation arrangements. But I think at the base of any transformative investment program is a clear theory of change, right? How what we are proposing is going to really shift the economic development paradigm of the city to stop. What you see here to the left is the dynamics that we found in a little bit like abstract term, but still we linked the dynamics that in the water supply, which is a vicious cycle where you see the people using groundwater and kind of like the city every time actually sinking, with the dynamics of the urbanization process, with less and less areas that are permeable. And all of these also reflected in the financial tax base of the city, right? So we wanted to change with these 5 urban typologies, these dynamics, that's what you see to the right, and introduce a number of vicious cycles in a way that economic development and vulnerability are not one or the other, but become a win-win. And that's how we can move on. And so this is also the base, right? When you see all the benefits these typologies will give to multiple objectives, public and private, then you still need to go though to the contractual and commercial phase. So we did a lot of discussions with our counterparts there to define a clear hierarchy of the most important services, because ultimately this service we're going to pay back for these investments. And that's how we also work. If you see here also the cost of one specific location, I mean, we had to work to develop the cost and benefit at different levels, allocation level, at concept level, and full strategy. We can go to the next one, please, Julia. And so we came to a different, I mean, depending on what you're talking about, like micro interventions or Spongy Mountain, you will have a component of more public or more private financing and participation. And so we work with the local stakeholders to decide what should be that mix. How do we use concessional finance to leverage greater private sector participation, but also to make sure these innovations are taken up further by the people who can make sure they are sustainable. If we go to the next one, Julia. And I think what was really crucial though, and that was something very central in Waterloo's leverage, and that we also work out in much detail for Semarang, is that you need to think on a 15 years period, right? We have to drive a change in how people look at surface water. We had to also at the same time create capacity at both sides to do this in a sustainable manner. So if you see here, that's the timeline of how to implement these different concepts. But also how to, for instance, the role of micro-interventions in creating a different view to our surface waters from the population is then crucial for the implementation of Spongy Mountain. And then ultimately, when you have all that surface water there available, is that you can start with contracts, for instance, bulk contracts for feeding the industry. So yeah, the thinking here forces us also to not just end up in a plan that is wonderful and synergetic, but that is doable, right, and absorbable by public procurement systems, but also private investments decisions. So with that, I would like to to finish, and maybe just the last one that they see, I won't go in depth on that, but basically what we end with, and that's also where the local task force is going further, is a scorecard, right? How far, oh no, the one before, sorry, the bankability scorecard for the 5 concepts, right? How far the different business cases work out, seem positive, or need like further research and discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Monica. I think it's a very also interesting presentations. Yeah, I hope. Thank you, host, as well, for helping me with the technical issues again in the beginning. So I think the idea that three keynote speakers are trying to deliver here for the sustainable water strategy is the acupuncture approach that can add to the already existing system in order to enhance the existing system in Semarang already. That's why there are five more or less proposals with the different locations, and these different locations also cover the upstream and the downstream of Semarang. So I think that will be interesting. One last keynote speaker, we will talk about a very interesting aspect as well that should not be left behind when we talk about sustainability. It's about the governance aspect. So I will give the floor to our last keynote speaker, but not least, Ibu Wiwandari Handayani from Diponegoro University. The floor is yours, Ibu Wiwandari.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mbak Yulia, for giving me this opportunity. I hope you can see the screen, my screen now, and can hear my voice clearly. Yeah, in this nice opportunity, I would like to present some highlight focusing on the governance based on the water as leverage implementation in Indonesia. I was so happy to be engaged in this, not only as a part of the cascading team, working together with Paola, with Yulia, with Monica, and other team members, Ibu Wiwi, and also from different institutions from the Dutch and also Indonesia. But also as a part of Diponegoro University's member, we are the knowledge partner of the program. Yeah, I would like to start my brief highlights on governance in water as leverage implementations, starting with this, showing this picture and also some notes from the government. This picture comes from about 2 weeks ago. At that time, it is like a very good momentum for the water as leverage program, because at the time we formally give all of our product and also present all of our result to the Semarang government, and they are the mayor in Ek, of Semarang city, the head of the city secretary, and also the head of the Bapeda. Me with Pak Rindam, the representative of the Netherlands government in Indonesia, formally gave the result. And from the government perspective, they said that at that time, at least there are 4 achievements that already been achieved by the water as leverage team. The first, they believe that the water as leverage, including the cascading concept, already introduced the integrated water management from upstream to the downstream. And just like Bu Wiwi and also Paola has mentioned, it's also promote the bottom-up process in which there are significant stakeholders involvement during the process. And accordingly, they are also not only promoting the integrated process, but also increasing the human resource capacity in understanding the integrated water management. And of course, there are also important achievement, because this program already helped the communication process between the central government and also the provincial and the local government. Because when we talk about water governance, water management in Indonesia, it is across jurisdiction and also authority and communication among different level of government is very important. And of course, the good thing about water as leverage being held and start to be implemented in 2020, hopefully is because it is expected all the ideas will be integrated in the midterm plan of Semarang 2021-2025, because I think this is a good momentum for the city, because there will be a election next month, and I think it's good time for the program to start from the concept to the implementation. Based on that achievement, then I think there are at least three main reflections that I would like to share with you based on all the process that have been through since 2018. Beside promoting integration approach, there is somehow a learning process from all the stakeholders, not only the government but also the bottom-up process. Try to think from sectoral into the integration, and it start creating somehow an enabling environment, mostly again across different level of government, because when we talk about water management integrated approach, of course, it will include a different level of government. Accordingly, I think there are three challenges at the same time, also opportunity for the water as leverage, not only stop at the concept level, but also be implemented. Not only because it is already included in the midterm plan, but at least there are two challenging and opportunities through the coalition building among the different level of governments, and also as Monica has mentioned, financing is important. So there will be more rooms, hopefully in the following steps, as a form of the financing adaptation with more role of financial institution, innovation, and so on. I use a simple network gap analysis to show that maybe when we start at 2018 up to 2019, there are a strong role of the main actors, the design team, the Semarang city government, maybe Undip as the local expert pool or the knowledge partner. But then the expectation start from the 2020, we can start the implementation level and expanding the involvement of the actors, including the national, provincial, local government, and of course, it will be very important the role of the financial institution, and in collaboration with the local partners based in Semarang. Last but not least, from my presentation, I think from the governance perspective, at least I saw at the process level that the program, we see that the city perceives integration as a harmonization initiative and action. So the harmonization is very important to promote integration, and somehow the decentralization challenge in Indonesia need to deal with that, and we need to build the coalition and work in a harmony way. And looking at the output, WAL or water as leverage involve already goal visioning and interactive strategy making process, and expected to provide a more optimal outcomes, and of course a sustainable solution that works not only hopefully for Semarang, but could be replicated in other parts in Indonesia and also other countries. I think I will stop here. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I give the time back to Yuria. Thank you, Mbak Yuria.
Thank you, Ibu Wiwandari Handayani. Wow, I think that's why we have to put you in for the fourth keynote speaker, because I'm glad that there is a continuation from the project and it being adapted into the regional middle term planning development. I think that is a quite breakthrough, I think, after the project is over. So, well, I see here, I think we have to proceed to the quick question and answer sessions. I think I see one questions here. Let me summarize that with you. I think this question is general for everyone. Uh, what efforts should we do to recycle the water that we already use for daily activities, such as bathing, washing clothes, and etc.? so that it can be used again, but not just immediately become waste. So I think I will give these questions maybe to Olaf and Ibu Wiwi. I think that's your specialty. Please.
Okay, yes. Well, I think it's very good to optimize use of water. So if you're now talking about gray water use, so the washing up and the bath water, etc. It would be good to find ways to clean it and then reuse it. For instance, watering the garden or the plantations. You can do that on a small scale, you can do that on a centralized scale. And I think the key is finding ways on implementation. The techniques are there. They can be high tech, they can be low tech, but it's much more about how do you get that system installed. And I think what we tried with cascading is to think on again on two levels. So we talked about, even as our last intervention, the cleaning facility, and then re-infiltration, deep infiltration to replenish the underwater aquifers. That's a typical high-tech, big infrastructural part. But we also looked at what is already there, on a local scale, on a household scale, and that was our last bit where we talked about micro interventions, which is basically stimulating local communities to combine efforts
Mm.
as much as possible and make that happen. And that's also, I think, what Chuk was talking about, getting or reaching out, starting at the earliest moment. And that means not only rich people, but also the more vulnerable communities. And yes, that does need some coordination. It doesn't mean that it all needs to be top down, and it can still be bottom up. But it's very much about coordination. That's, I think, the whole key issue here. Thanks.
Ibu Wiwi, would you like to add some more? I know that you have a lot of experience with water as well, especially in Rotterdam. So yes, please.
Yeah. Well, yeah, what in Rotterdam we also work at different levels, and what you see is there is a lot of local initiatives, and what inspired me was that people were already collecting rainwater, how the person who lives in that village in the hilly area, who he motivates his neighborhood to do various experiments to multiply that experiment as well. So yeah, it's what Olaf already mentioned. It depends on the finance as well, but yeah, there are also new interventions like using crates or drain blocks to store water and reuse it at a later moment. Also, but also purifying the water, of course, depending on the use you're envisaging.
Thank you, Ibu Wiwi.
Okay,
Yeah.
that would be my
In the
answer.
middle,
Yeah.
your voice is a bit breaking up, but I get your point. I think that's a
Oh,
very
okay. Sorry.
interesting, and I think there are a lot of innovations and products. I think that has been developed in the Netherlands that can be also used to reuse the water at some point. I received one question for Ibu Wiwandari. Wow, this question is about a bit complex. It's about the network of stakeholders and the actor players in the term of a sustainable water design strategy. So the question is, there is a shift in concern of main actors between concept and design of the future, while for the design of future and the different level of governments are the main factors. What are the reasons for this?
Yeah. Thank you, Pak I think it's from Andi Aryawan for the questions. Yeah, I will try to answer your questions. There are at least two reasons. The first one is, at the implementation level, when we talk about water management, river management, I think the one most important part is coordination among different government sectors and also level, because water in Indonesia under the different responsibility of government. And when we talk about river, it is cross boundary. It cross different administrative boundaries. So water works at the functional boundary, while the government authority based on the administrative boundaries. So in the end, when we come into the implementation levels, I think it will be very important, different level of government, because river management, for example, at the under the responsibility of the Ministry of Public Works, but then at the local level, the drainage system will be under the authority of the local government. Things like that need to be managed integratively. Then it will be important to create a strong communication among these different level of government. And briefly, the second reason is because of the limited capacity of the local government for get the funding resource. So it's very important, yeah, for the local government to work together with the upper level of government, the provincial and national, to get more support, mostly to get more opportunity to get help and support in funding. Yeah, thank you, Mbak Yulia.
Thank you, Bu Iwandari. I would like to stay a bit on that topic. So, because in your presentation, you said that thanks to the water as leverage, based on your observation, there is an increasing capacity for the local government in integrated water strategy development and maintenance. To what extent do you think this capacity can be shown, for example?
More understanding, more awareness that when we talk about water, it means we cannot just see it as a sectoral level, but we need to see it integratively, because water will be also related with other sectors, with waste, for example, with spatial planning, for example. So I think the learning process like that is very important, raising awareness and understanding all of the involved stakeholders, including also the government. Yeah.
Wow, I think I'm really glad that this kind of cross-sectoral thinking and can be developed there in the local government, and also can break the silo culture that always be there in all local governments unit in Indonesia. Like I have several experiences as well, and it's always hard for them to think about cross-sectoral, even though they are maybe in the same office building. So that's quite weird. I have also interesting questions from Nailul Firdaus. What should be the first and foremost priority in realizing sustainable water management in cities? Okay, I will give the first to answer to Monica, I think.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, that I saw the question, and it's a very interesting one, because I think and there is also when you need to keep the systemic view inside, right? Because it's not it's like what we thought micro interventions should be the way to start, in a way, because people start to interact with surface water, starts to change that. So I think you have to work all the time at the different levels, like that behavioral level. At the same time, policy, economic instruments also give a great incentive for those changes, right? So if we talk also about water reuse, it's so important that the government set the right tone with the prices, with the tariffs, and so forth. And at the same time, what we saw is that it's not, it's like a very sensitive balance, because we may want to change the culture. I mean, we may want to change the regulations, but that's going to take time, right? And so at the same time, you have to work with the actors, like private sector at all levels, that have the interest in innovation. And instead of the stick, you also have to use the carrot, no? So that was the idea that we had, is like, how do we make them enthusiastic, like urban developers, to to use this and see that they could also earn money with this new system, right? So it's like you are converging from all the sides. Now, in terms of the city, I think it is crucial though, because often we look at water and sanitation also even within the water sector as a silo, but we depend on those resources upstream. So I think it's really crucial to, in a way, make people in cities more aware of the connection with the rural or the say upstream communities, right? And that they depend on them, and so that you can also start to establish ways of funding or financing from instance from the water bills, the works upstream that may guarantee that sustainability. Some of these you see already, for instance, in Latin America, where 1% of extra in the water bills in Peru have been added to invest in green infrastructure. So I would say the urban-rural connection is also very important to establish. Okay, that's more or less what I would like to say.
Thank you, Monica. I think the first one is awareness, like we Wandari said. Uh, as long as the awareness is there within the stakeholders and also the community and inhabitants, I think, and everyone understand that, okay, there's an urgency in our city to take care of all the disasters that happen. I think that would be like a trigger point when we have to think about something, and then we start collaborating. Maybe we share resources that we have. And I have interesting questions. Although we have a very limited time, but I really like to ask these questions. I think I would like to address these questions to Olaf and Bui Wandari, the representative from both countries. What make this water as leverage Semarang different than any other related projects in Semarang? Maybe Bui Wandari first.
Ladies first. Okay, thank you, Yulia. What makes this program different? Because I think there are two strong messages. The first one is it promotes integration, not only think water as a water problem and as a water solution, but also water related with different sectors. And we promote the integration approach from the upstream to the downstream. And not only that, the second thing that make it different is because we hope that we do not only propose concept, but we also provide some options to make it implementing by like could be formed as a development project. So not only a concept, but how we can provide opportunities to finance to become like a bankable project. I think that's my brief response, Mbak Yulia. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's a very beautiful message. Olaf, what do you think?
Now, of course, it becomes difficult to top that. No, but I know what makes it different is in spatial sense, at least, apart from all the collaboration and the cross-sectoral approach, is that it actually also connects a problem or a challenge, the water challenges that are there, to be resolved in such a way that it actually creates more. That's the whole leverage part. Water as leverage. That was the main idea always, as Henk Oving really stimulated that approach. So start thinking not just about how to solve an issue, a problem, which is water related in this sense, but what can you actually come up with in such a way that it actually adds, more benefits to its area or to its. And so that's also what I try to showcase a little bit. I mean, with the spongy mountain approach upstream, so there's water induced landslides happening there. Okay, we can just make a big I don't know, gutter around it and that's it. Or you can sort of make a cascading approach where you stabilize that soil, you redirect the water, but actually you also create therefore more ground, more solid ground that can be further urbanized, as the urban pressure is still there. And same way in the city itself. okay, there is waterways, they are there, but they're, you know, underappreciated at least. So can we make an approach where we not only start increasing that local network, so therefore increasing the water absorbance capacity of that network there, but we can also start cleaning that water, and we can also actually create public space, which basically has nothing to do with the water itself, but is actually also much needed in that area, an area which is again very densely built up and very hard. It's very difficult to find, you know, proper, nice public space. So I, you know, in that way, trying to find what is then the actual connection you can make, and it becomes more than just 1+1 is 2. 1+1 is 3 somehow. And I think in that, by that drive to find, and actually, as it says in the title, find solutions that have leverage to the quality of its surroundings, I think that's quite different or unique for this approach. Apart, I must say, actually, for also trying to connect it to the world of finance, but that's, I think, a little bit more for Monica to reflect upon.
Yes. I also wanna address that to Monica. Please, Monica, what do you think water as leverage is different?
Oh, thank you, Julia. Yeah, I mean, around the same time that we were busy with waterless leverage, the Global Commission on Adaptation, put out their report that says that the way we have been developing is bringing us right to this increasing vulnerability. So they call that, and they say maybe the way we have to reverse these trends is we need 3 revolutions, like one in understanding, one in planning, and one in financing. And I would say that waterless leverage does embody that, that process, like this understanding that it's not a water centric problem, but it's like the whole city problem. Planning much more like bottom up and top down at the same time. So and financing, and just to emphasize what Olaf also already said, is like we keep looking at water like a constraint for development, right? Like the water risk, but it should be the motor for development. And every time you walk here around the Netherlands, you do feel that, right? Because it's like water adds value to your house. And that I think is also the inspiration that you like with that exchange.
Thank you, Monica. I think there are still a lot of questions that we can explore, but unfortunately, the host reminded me that we already run out of time. So to the let me proceed to the polling result. Let me share my screen now. Yeah, can you all see my screen? There are 3 questions actually in the polling. The first one, what comes in your mind when you think about the sustainable and resilient Delta city? First is about future, integrated strategy, water management, happy citizen, circular green energy, good performance, better life, development, and community. I think most of this is already covered by our presentations. And the second is like, what is the major constraint? It's political will, sectoral institutional structures. Yes, that's correct. And we try to break it out. And dense population, ignorant people. Yes, I think we have to build the awareness first. And knowledge about the importance of sustainable and resilient social community and need to work hard to do socialization. And lastly, this is my favorite questions. Among 4 of the aspects that we have presented, do you think which one is more important? A lot of people mentioning the social or community point of view. Whoa! But please, and then the second place would be the spatial point of view and economic. Unfortunately, I do not see the green, the green about governance in that chart. I think it's most important. We cannot just like give one portion better to another. I think all of the aspects should be like goes hand in hand, so it becomes sustainable. So I think we reached to the conclusion for today. First is to achieve sustainable water strategy. It is important to consider all the various aspects and layers such as social community, spatial, economy, and governance. Again, I say to you, we cannot choose merely one to another, but we have to integrate it and create a harmony. And the second is a cross-sectoral approach and collaboration. It's important and crucial because we can share the knowledge, inspire, and divide the role and have a joint resources. And lastly is the capacity building and knowledge transfer are required so that any good initiative can be adopted, and become sustainable. And for those of you who are still curious and interested to learn more about water as Leifert and Cascading Semarang, please, there are two publications that it already published, and you can access it here in the IDE and Livable City website or in MLA Plus website or Water as Leverage website. The link can be provided in the chat box. And just a bit of promotion, in the Enlay Publicities will not stop here. We will discuss further about another interesting topic, which is about the new capital of Indonesia. As you know, in 2019, last year, Indonesia decided to move the capital from Jakarta to a city in Kalimantan. And what happened next after a year of the plan? So we will discuss later next week on December 4. So you can also start registering now. And further information is in IDN Livable Cities website and also social media. And last but not least, a bit of information for you. In the winter, there are also networking sessions after this at 4:15 Indonesian time or at 10:15 in Amsterdam time. You can join, and then the link is provided also on the chat box. Uh, Thank you so much. And I also say thank you to all winner organizing committee, to all keynote speakers, and to all distinguished guests. Thank you for joining the session, and I hope you learn a lot from us. And I really also would like to look forward to further collaboration with all of you, and see you at the next event. We